Afternoon, Pritam. Please take a seat. Okay, Mr. Pritam Singh, thank you very much for coming back again. I'd like to remind you that you have made an affirmation to tell the truth. The proceedings today is a continuation of the last hearing, and you are still bound to your solemn obligations. If you refuse to answer questions directly, attempt to prevaricate or willfully mislead the committee by providing false evidence, such behavior will be an offence in contempt of the committee. Essentially, the two things. The clerk had further written to you to appear before committee today to produce any paper, book, record, or document, including any email message in any messaging application in your possession or under your control relating to or with respect to any discussion, instruction, inquiry, or communication to or with any persons relating to untruths spoken by Ms. Raeesah Khan in Parliament on 3rd August 2021 and 4th October 2021. Secondly, any discussions, instructions, inquiry, or communications to or with any other persons relating to Ms. Khan's personal explanation in Parliament on 1st November 2021, and also the formation, proceedings, deliberations, and recommendations of the disciplinary panel set up by the Workers' Party to inquire into Ms. Raeesah Khan. I understand that you have not brought any documents with you today?
That's correct.
Right, okay. We'll follow this up subsequent to this interview. I think we also have some questions that Mr. Edwin Tong would like to put to you.
Sure.
Edwin Tong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Singh.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tong.
Mr. Singh, some evidence was received by the committee after you gave evidence on Friday. So we thought we'll put it to you and ask you for your response to it.
Sure.
I will first give you the context and then show you the new evidence that has come in after you gave evidence,
sure.
Then ask you for your response on them. Now, this is in relation to what you had expected Ms. Khan to do after you met with her on the 3rd of October. You remember we had a discussion on that on Friday.
Yes.
Now, I think you've confirmed to us that it is important for all members of Parliament to tell the truth, and to clarify an untruth on the record as soon as possible in the circumstances, correct?
In the circumstances that, given the circumstances, yes.
Yes. Now, you mentioned that in this case, the timing might be up to Ms. Khan, but you were very clear to her that if she were to speak up thereafter, it would have to be the truth, correct?
Yes.
And just like to show you one portion of the evidence, just to give you a context of where I'm coming from. If you can please pick up your bundle on the 10th of December.
Yes, I have that bundle.
This is the transcript of your evidence. Could you please turn to page 50? And go please to the bottom 1/3 of the page.
Yes.
I'll start with my question. I said, please focus on my questions. Your understanding on 3rd October was that if the matter came up, she would stand up in Parliament and clarify the lie. Answer, yes. And you said that in your mind, there was no doubt that she understood you, right? That's right.
Mr. Tong, just give me a second. I'm trying to find where you're reading from.
Oh, I'm so sorry. The bottom 1/3 of the page, page
Right.
50.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. You see?
Please carry on.
Okay. So over the page, and so at 12:30 p.m. when Minister Shanmugam stood up to make his ministerial statement.
That's 51, right?
Yes.
Page 51.
I
okay.
just read 50, so then I'm now in 51.
Right.
Would you like me to start with 50 again?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I wasn't focused
No
when
problem.
you started
No problem.
speaking.
I'll start again.
Yes.
So, two questions from the bottom. You will see, I asked, so please focus on my questions. Your understanding on 3rd October was that if the matter came up, she would stand up in Parliament and clarify the lie, correct? Your answer, yes. And you said that in your mind, there was no doubt that she understood you, right? Answer, that's right. Over the page. And so at 12:30 p.m., when Minister Shanmugam stood up to make his ministerial statement and seek the clarification, in your mind, there was only one outcome. Answer, absolutely. And that she would stand up and tell the truth. Answer, that is correct. So that was your position.
That's right.
You stand by that, right?
That's right.
That's your position,
That's
yes. Now, and your position also was that this would be clear to Ms. Khan after your meeting with her on the 3rd of October.
Yes, that is correct.
Right. Now, again, for context, I'll show you what Ms. Loh said about this same occasion. If you could leave your bundle open and pick up, please, the transcripts of 2nd December.
Yes, I have it in front of me.
Yes. Could you please turn to page 44?
Yes, I'm at page 44.
You recall that you had given evidence that on the 12th of October you met with Ms. Loh, and on that occasion you recounted to Ms. Loh what you had said to Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October.
Are you reading from page 44?
Well, I'm just refreshing you of the context before I read it to you.
I beg your pardon. Could you say that again? On the 12th of October?
On the 12th of October, you had given evidence that you
Right.
met with Ms. Loh and Mr. Nathan, and you told them what you told Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October.
Generally in those terms, in the same terms, yes.
Yes, in the same terms.
Yes.
Now, this is my question to Ms. Loh about that occasion. So if you could please go to the middle of the page
Yes.
where I said you mentioned, did you see that?
Yes, I see that.
You mentioned that Mr. Singh told you that he would not judge Ms. Khan. Ms. Loh, yes, that was on 12 October. I then said, so that I think we earlier agreed, you took it as a sign that was reassuring, right? He's prepared to let her do as she thinks appropriate. Her answer, I mean, I would assume he's prepared. If he said that to her, I mean, you say that with the knowledge that it could go either way, right? I recall that you had said it was not either way, but it was very clear in your mind that Ms. Khan had understood you, that it was only one way.
That is correct.
That's correct. Okay. Now, on Monday, that was 2 days ago. I'm losing track of my time myself. Ms. Sylvia Lim came before the COP and she gave some evidence, and I'd like to show you what she tendered to the COP. If I could ask you to please pick up the document that was tendered by Ms. Lim to the COP. Could the clerk please assist Mr. Singh?
Yes.
You have it?
Yes, I do. Which page am I to look at?
If you can look at the bottom of the page, you will see a page pagination, binder, page 1, and so on.
I do so.
Right. Now, page 1 is not relevant for my purposes. I'll just orientate you to the document. Page 2 is a typewritten transcript of a meeting that took place between the DP, the disciplinary panel,
Yes.
and Ms. Khan on
Yes.
the 8th of November.
That
You
is
see
correct.
Okay. You were present, right?
I was present.
So these are Ms. Lim's notes, and you will see at binder page 5, these were the original handwritten notes, which she then subsequently typed up.
Yes.
So you will see the notes from page 5 through to page 11.
Yes, I do.
Yes. Now at page 12, the same, for the meeting of the 29th of November.
Yes, I see
Again, she typed up the notes, the same notes that she took in handwriting from the binder page 18 onwards, all the way through to binder page 30.
that. Yes.
So 12 pages of handwritten notes, transcribed and written up.
Yes.
She had confirmed to this tribunal or this committee that these notes were taken contemporaneously, the handwritten notes, and also, to the best of her recollection, verbatim.
Yes.
Can I ask you to just quickly look at page 17 of the note?
Binder page 17?
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm there.
At binder page 17, let me just read it to you. PS, and I think she refers to you, is recorded as saying, before October session, I met you and told you it was your call. Did need to tell the truth in PAL occur to you? Question mark. RK, yes, but consumed with guilt and own experience. Thought it wouldn't come up. PS, can't lie, right? RK, yes. So these are Ms. Lim's notes of what happened at the meeting on the 29th of November. Mm-hmm. Now, there are two portions to it. What you told her, meaning Ms. Khan, and what she should do, she meaning Ms. Khan. And these are distinct. Now, what you told her when you said your call, does it mean for Ms. Khan to make a choice?
No, I understand what you're asking. I think this was the way I phrased my question to Ms. Khan at the
Yes.
disciplinary panel. But insofar as what I said to her at the meeting at her house on the 3rd of October, it was clear that you had to take ownership and responsibility for it.
Yes.
And thereafter, as I already have given evidence, I said, I will not judge you, but in the context of her appearing to look uncertain of herself.
I understand. But on the 29th of November, based on these notes, you had said to Ms. Khan that you put it to her as your call. And you were referring in this line to the 3rd of October meeting.
Before the October session, Mr. Tong, I'll have to read the document a bit more to give you an affirmative answer there. But
Sure, you can.
It would
follow
highly
because-
likely refer to the 3rd October meeting.
Yes, because if I recall your evidence, in October, or at least prior to the October sitting, there were only 2 occasions you had pointed us to.
That's right.
Right?
The email
first
and
was
the
an email on the
meeting.
1st of
That's right.
October, and the second was this meeting at her home on
That
the
is
3rd
correct.
of October. So a conversation would refer to the 3rd of October conversation.
Yes,
And so the reference to your call must be a reference to the conversation that took place on the 3rd of October.
that is right.
Right. So in that context, would it mean that it is for Ms. Khan to make a choice?
No, sir, it would not.
That's an ordinary meaning of the phrase "your call." Would you agree?
Yes, but if you look thereafter, I said, did the need to tell the truth in Parliament occur to you? It's a confirmation in my mind of putting the term "your call" into context.
Right.
So I did not specifically frame the question to say that this was you were told to take ownership and responsibility. So the question wasn't framed that way, but it was quite clear in my communication to her when I asked your call. I mean, it follows from the evidence I've given earlier about the responsibility a WPMP should take vis-a-vis his or her work in Parliament, the sort of politics that we want to practice, and I suppose that one has to look at it in totality.
Okay. Now, Ms. Lim, who was present at this meeting on the 29th of November, and indeed these are her notes.
Sure.
I'd like you to look at what she said about this portion of the notes.
Yes.
If I could invite you to please pick up the transcripts of the 13th of December.
I believe this would be the one. Yes. Oh, no, sorry. This is 10 December. Okay, I have 13 December in front of me.
Yes. If you could please turn to page 62.
Yes.
You have it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Ms. Lim at page 62, you will see at 62 and over the page at 63, she spent some time giving us an account of the notes that she had taken on the 8th of November as well as on the 29th of November.
Yes.
And so you can see on the transcripts, her evidence was quite extensive. And at page 64, she then said this, and I would like to read it to you from just before the middle of the page. And last of all, do you see that?
Yes, the fourth paragraph from the top.
That's right. And last of all, from these notes, I'd like to highlight on the last page, page 6, that, and this concerns the 3rd October meeting, which I wasn't present at, between Mr. Singh and her. And the question was put to her by Mr. Singh as follows. It says, before the October session, I met you and told you that it was your call. Did the need to tell the truth in Parliament occur to you? And her response was yes, but I was consumed with guilt in my own experience, and I thought that it wouldn't come up. That's her response. She was consumed with guilt at her own experience, and she thought it wouldn't come up. And Mr. Singh says to her, you can't lie, right? And then she says yes. As for the 3rd October meeting, I was not there, but that was her response to the disciplinary panel when asked why she didn't tell the truth before the October sitting. She said she was consumed with guilt in her own experience. That was what she narrated. Chairman then asked, if I may ask you a quick question since you raised this. He goes on to say, in that last page, you mentioned about the conversation on 3rd October. At the top of the page where Mr. Pritam Singh said, before the October session, I met you and told you it was your call. So, meaning that it was really up to her to decide what to do. Ms. Lim says, I don't know the context, but he phrased it that way. Chairman then says, from this, it would seem that it's really for her to decide, which is, I guess, and Ms. Lim then said, she has to decide, yes. Chairman says, I guess if you follow from this, when he said that I will not judge you, is that you decide what you want to do, I will not judge you for that. Would that be a fair interpretation as you see it? I know you were not there. Answer, I wasn't there. It goes on over the page, but let me just stop for a moment and ask you for your response to Ms. Lim's evidence, where she says that this account took place, and the way it's phrased, she doesn't know the context because she wasn't present at the 3rd October meeting, but she says that it is for Ms. Khan to decide. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think when one informs an MP that he or she has to take ownership and responsibility, indeed, that MP has to take ownership and responsibility. And I can see why the word your call gives the suggestion that it's a choice for her to make.
Yes,
But,
indeed.
and I think that's a reasonable look at it. But in the context of how I had put it to Ms. Khan at the DP,
Okay.
and in particular the question that I followed up with, I mean, you really can't tell a lie, can you? I think the entire context of the discussion on the 3rd of October really comes back to Ms. Khan having to take ownership and responsibility for this issue, which I believe I communicated to her
Okay.
quite clearly.
I understand. So you would agree, and I think you said that earlier, at least on its own, the phrase "your call," one reasonable interpretation of that would be that it is for Ms. Khan to make a decision.
If you discount the context of this word being used in a DP and the subsequent question put to her, I can understand.
I understand. Okay. Now, Ms. Lim, who said she was, and again to give you the context, and I don't know if you had seen at least what's public about Ms. Lim's evidence, she had said that she was aware of the lie on the 8th of August.
That's right.
And that thereafter she left it to you to deal with Ms. Khan, liaise with her, work out the plan for Ms. Khan to clarify the lie in Parliament. And up till the 4th of October, she had no idea what you had done or what you were doing and what you had said to Ms. Khan. Mm-hmm. So that was her evidence.
Sure.
Now, in the context of what Ms. Khan then did on the 4th of October, which was to, in Ms. Lim's words, double down on the lie, this is what Ms. Lim said. If I may refer you to the same bundle, and turn please to page 39.
Yes, I'm there.
Yes. Just around the top 1/3 of the page, where Ms. Lim first appears, and she starts with "you see." Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Yes. She says, "You see, it never crossed my mind, and I cannot fathom this possibility that Pritam would have given her the option to choose between telling the truth or continuing the lie. That never crossed my mind, and I do not believe it to be true. So when she comes and says, I don't think I want to tell the truth, I think it's just her. It's nothing to do with Mr. Singh at all." Ms. Lim says that it's not fathomable that you would have given Ms. Khan a choice. But based on these notes on the 29th of November, it would appear that you gave her a choice, of course, in the context in which it is used. Would you agree?
In the context in which it is used, yes.
Yes, but would you agree that one reasonable construction or interpretation from Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October would be that she will be given a choice as to whether to tell the truth or to continue with the lie?
Mr. Tong, I didn't tell her on the 3rd of October that it is your call to make. I didn't say that to her. I told her that she would have to take ownership and responsibility. On the notes written by Ms. Lim, yes, indeed, I would have put the question to Ms. Khan in that manner. But it's not just that which is important. And as I conceded, I can understand why that line of questioning is something that you're pursuing. You also have to see what comes after that, which is,
I understand.
You can't tell a lie, right? So I think it was I wouldn't want to use the word abridged, but I had just put the matter across to Ms. Khan at the DP in that manner.
Right. So you're saying that despite the way in which you had phrased the question on the 29th of November to Ms. Khan, you didn't use those words.
That's right. On the 3rd of October.
On the 3rd of October. If you didn't use those words, how would you have conveyed to her that it was your call? Why would you say to her on the 29th of November that it was your call?
I think it was in the context of how she was responding to us. I mean, that whole meeting on the 29th was a meeting where she was just continually crying and crying and crying. And in that context, I put a question which I felt could elicit a response which would be helpful to the DP. So that's how I put the question.
Right. And so you're not saying that you had phrased it in this way, but would you not accept that the way in which you had characterized how you left Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October after the meeting and your frame of mind about how sure she was that she would come and tell the truth would be quite a different characterization from the words "your call" taken in the context of the notes on the 29th of November?
To the extent that you're making the comparison, I would agree.
Yes.
In the course of, I think I must have shared something like about 100 pages of documents to the committee of communication, I think 1 or 2 emails, 1 email at least. There's also an exchange I have with Ms. Khan's father that takes place sometime in the middle of October.
The second half of October, I think.
Yes, and I think that's the point when she actually tells her parents what's happening. And ownership and responsibility are quite a major part of my message to Mr. Khan. And I think those words were really the central focus of what I expected Ms. Khan to do had the matter come up.
I understand.
Post 3rd of October.
Yeah, I mean, as you appreciate, what this committee has to do is to work out the extent to which this conversation took place in the way in which you have described it,
I
or
understand.
in the way that Ms. Khan has described it.
I fully understand.
Yes. And I mean, in context, on the 3rd of October, Ms. Khan was a fresh new MP, rookie MP, 1 year in Parliament, or barely 1 year. And she had admitted 2 months prior to that she had told a lie in Parliament, coming to see her senior leaders
Yes.
of the Workers' Party. Would you not accept that in that context, really the only thing that you ought to have said to her at that point in time should be, look, Ms. Khan, there's a lie on the record. You must go and own up, tell the truth in Parliament if it comes up. Make it very clear in clear, simple, direct terms. Would you agree?
Mr. Tong, I believe I gave this my reply to this earlier at the earlier session before the COP, and that was the nature of what, or the nature of why the lie was told in the first place. It was an episode where Ms. Khan suffered a traumatic, or at least she communicated that she had suffered a very traumatic episode, sexual assault, and so because of that particular fact, or what I saw to be a fact at that point, and I have really no reason to believe that it wasn't true, I took a course of action where I wanted her to address that issue, and then thereafter I could pursue that with her.
Okay, I understand what you have just said, and I can understand the point that you're making, which I think Mr. Faisal and Ms. Lim also made to us, that because of the sexual assault, the experience, and the trauma, one might understand that that has an impact on the timing at which this is going to be done.
Sure.
And I think you gave quite a lot of evidence as to how you saw that issue. But here we are on the 3rd of October, where you're contemplating that the issue might arise. And in fact, speaking to Ms. Khan about it. In that context, when you're discussing it with her, with the expectation or contemplation that it might arise the next day, why not use direct terms? Tell her, tell the truth,
Yes.
Go to Parliament, you've told a lie, own it, and take responsibility, and tell the truth to Parliament.
Mr. Tong, I believe I communicated that in my way when I suggested her to take ownership and responsibility.
Okay. Yeah. And in fact, actually, to dial back one step, in fact, not only if it comes up, but why not say whether it comes up or not?
Yes.
You should tell the truth. In fact, that ought to be your position.
That would have, I think this is where I don't think we disagree at the eventual outcome. The outcome is the lie has to be corrected. The record in Parliament has to be corrected. How we get there is obviously where there's a difference in terms of the proposition you're putting to me and what actually transpired.
Okay.
And in my case, the fact that she was a sexual assault survivor herself, I determined that I'm going to give her time to manage her affairs, and thereafter I would pursue it. And again, my email of the 1st of October is suggestive of the fact that I wasn't personally going to let this issue lie, but lie as in to remain on the record, but it is to inform not just Ms. Khan, but everybody that these sort of things are just not on. You can't do this.
Okay. Now, just to clean up one other point with
Sure.
you on this. So we saw Ms. Lim's evidence, both in terms of the contemporaneous notes as well as what she has said to this committee in answer to Mr. Chairman's questions. I'd like to show you what Ms. Loh said as well again on this. If you have that same bundle opened up,
I would.
may I invite you to
2nd December?
Yes, 2nd December.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Can you please pick it up again and turn now to page 28?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. So just around the bottom 1/3 of the page, I'll just read you some extracts. Okay, starting with, but now, you have that?
I'm there.
But now that you know what you know, would it not be a fair assumption that the meeting prior to 4th October between Mr. Singh and Ms. Khan was to settle the terms of what she would say if she's pressed? Answer, yes, I would imagine. If she had expected what would happen, answer, yeah, I would imagine that they should have discussed the best way to handle it. I then said, and so were you taken aback or surprised that this was the agreed position with the party leader in Parliament? Ms. Loh, I mean, I knew it wasn't the agreed position to take because Mr. Singh had left the choice up to her, with his words of, I will not judge you. I then said, but certainly Mr. Singh by that time knew what the true position was, and he was present in Parliament when those falsehoods continued to be perpetrated, correct? Answer, correct. As a senior party member and a cadre member, were you not surprised? Her answer, I was not surprised, but I was disappointed. Now, Ms. Loh is here saying that you had, at least from your narration to her, what happened on the 3rd of October, you had given Ms. Khan a choice and that she is disappointed by that. Would you say that this is consistent with how Ms. Lim had recorded your question to Ms. Khan on the 29th of November, meaning your call?
No, I would not.
Can you explain why then the narration that you gave to Ms. Loh on the 12th of November as to what happened on the 12th of October, I beg your pardon, as to what happened on the 3rd of October, gave her the impression that it was a choice?
I think she makes her view quite clear, and we see this also in the communication, which I also had sight of when I was here last Friday. These words, I will not judge you, seem to be seared in Ms. Loh's ear, and I think even Mr. Nathan's mind. And I think they've placed a large amount of weight on it, and they've not placed enough emphasis on the context in which that phrase was shared. And hence, I think it follows why Ms. Loh would make the representations that she has done.
And the context that you refer to would be the earlier words that you used concerning taking ownership and responsibility of the problem, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, further down the same page where I left off at page 29, you see 5 questions, 5 lines from the bottom.
Yes, I do.
But I'm asking you from the perspective of you having heard from Ms. Khan, who reported the conversation to you. Actually, it was Mr. Singh who shared with me the conversation. I asked her, what was your takeaway since you heard directly from him? Ms. Loh said, I suppose he was implying that he gave her the choice and that she had then acted independently thereafter. That's what he's implying. Answer, yes. So would your response be the same?
Yes, my response would be the same, Mr. Tong.
But you would agree that, at least based on the evidence that Ms. Loh had given us, as to her takeaway from the conversation with you on the 12th of October, her impression is that a choice was given to Ms. Khan.
I think it's far more nuanced than that, Mr. Tong. When she prefaces her statement by saying, I suppose he was implying. So you have a supposition and you have trying to read into what I'm implying.
Yes.
So I think there's quite a lot of gray there. And I would suggest that it was quite clear that Ms. Khan, whether she's a rookie MP or not, I don't think these things even need to be explained. That if you tell a lie, you have to, it's just not on. It's something you can't do.
I understand that, and I think you made it very clear as far as Ms. Khan is concerned. I'm asking you from the perspective of Ms. Loh, who was hearing it directly from you.
Sure.
You narrated it on the 12th of October.
Sure.
And I'm simply saying that based on at least the portions of evidence I've showed you, it would appear that Ms. Loh's takeaway from that conversation was that Ms. Khan had a choice whether to tell the truth or otherwise, and that she acted independently thereafter.
So my answer would be, as I've already put on record.
Okay. Now, if the words "your call" were used and taken in the context of the rest of the phrase that you told us about on Friday, which is take ownership, responsibility, and I won't judge you, would you agree that that would be something to take into account when trying to construe what I won't judge you means?
Are you referring to the use of those words, your call on the 29th of November or the 3rd of October?
Yes, and whether you would agree that if you take it together, it would reasonably give rise to an interpretation that the choice was Ms. Khan's whether to continue the lie or to tell the truth.
The words weren't used together. Your call was clearly in the context of the disciplinary panel. And as far as Ms. Khan, the meeting I had with Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October, it was to take ownership and responsibility.
Okay, so you're very clear that those words were not used, even
That is
though
correct.
You had put it-
Absolutely correct.
even though you had put it that way, directly to Ms. Khan.
Yes. At the DP.
At the DP. 29th of November was an event that took place just about 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yes. And this was you talking to Ms. Khan directly and referring to the prior conversation you had with her.
Right.
And you had characterized it as your call, at least on the 29th of November.
And thereafter to ask her that you can't lie, right? I think that's important. I mean, I think those two questions have to be read quite closely.
Okay, all right.
Rather than isolated.
Okay, I understand, Mr. Singh. Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I got no further questions.
Are there any other questions from any other members? Okay. I guess, Mr. Singh, I mean, just from my perspective, why this particular issue is important. As you realize, there are slightly different versions that have been
Yes.
shared. You have made it quite clear to us that your intent was to make sure that, and your impression was that Ms. Khan was under no illusions that on the 4th of October, should the issue arise, she was to tell the truth.
Yes, sir.
And you have taken you have been very specific, as I flagged up before, that she needs to take ownership and responsibility. And you also did make mention of the words, you will not judge her. But she had a different interpretation of this, obviously. So we have to ascertain which seems to make sense. Because obviously she repeated a lie on the 4th of October.
I understand.
And for us, we need to determine the level of responsibility, culpability, especially when a lie was repeated.
Yes, sir.
On 4th, and then made other statements, of course, where there were lies were reinforced. And we need to determine as to what your directions as leader of opposition was. You've shared with us your perspectives. What we have shared, I think we are trying to, obviously, is what your intent and what you have said.
Yes.
This is what she interpreted from it, and we're trying to see all the series of events leading
Yes,
up
sir.
to it, following it, and trying to ascertain which seems to make sense, because we do need to determine what is quite clear. She had lied and repeated a lie, and we need to determine the level of responsibility. So I think where we are going with this really is that if indeed, as you said, the intention was to make clear, we did point out that normally it is an important statement to make, especially because a lie had been made to Parliament. We noted that in the month of, we keep getting all the dates mixed up, August and October, no actions were taken since 8th of August until 3rd October when you met her, when you conveyed those positions to her. We note that which was a day before 4th October, where purportedly, if the issues was raised, she would have come clean and she would, as you expected her to tell the truth.
Yes.
And that's an important step. But we do note that there were no preparatory, efforts made. You have explained that you didn't know for sure whether it would arise, so should you put in all the effort to prepare, vet the statements, as you did for the 1st November statement?
I think, Chair, I agree. I don't disagree with you. And it didn't cross my mind that you've already lied. You've already made the admission to your party leadership. Why would you lie again?
Understand.
You know, so I expected
indeed.
her to.
And to
just-
make clear, but as we all know, and I think has been registered by all of you, that it's a grave matter. And I think how one admits, how one puts it across, I think for any political party, both as a party and an individual, it's important for us to make sure that statement is done right.
No,
And
absolutely.
it's communicated. As you have correctly, I think, as any party ought to do, that's worth its salt. In the lead up to the 1st November statement, a whole series of activities were taking place.
I just didn't expect her not
Indeed.
to
So these
continue the
activities
line.
didn't take place leading up to 4th October. You met just the day before. In your mind, your communications were very clear. We do note that you recounted this incident to Ms. Loh and Mr. Nathan, both of which interpreted it differently from how you intended it to be.
I wouldn't say differently, Chair. I'm just basing my comments on memory of what they said in their evidence to the committee. I don't think they were equivocal about having a different understanding.
But it wasn't clear in their minds that you had told her, indeed,
Indeed,
to...
it was a nuanced
That's
reading
right.
of what.
So they didn't get
what
this
happened.
from Ms. Khan, they got this from you, and you recounted this. And importantly, it was recounted on the 12th of October.
Yes, that's right.
When actually she had, I would imagine, disappointed you by not telling the truth on the 4th.
Yes, that's right.
And that aspect of being disappointed, and I would imagine you would have been rather angry that she didn't follow your instructions, your intent. That element of it didn't quite come up in the way they interpreted it, because they still felt it wasn't so clear. So I'm just
I mean,
recounting.
yeah, yes, I don't dispute your.
And of course, I think why we raised this issue, which I think you have given your evidence and we noted, as Ms. Sylvia Lim has observed, a statement that you made about choice.
Yes.
So we are just trying to string it together to understand the circumstance
No,
of what exactly is on
I
the
fully
third,
understand.
to determine, well, did Ms. Khan really just ignored all advice and direction and repeated a lie again? Or did you convey it differently? Or did she interpret it differently? So I think I just thought I wanted to just place on record why we're taking this approach.
I
know
understand.
that it might seem to be belaboring the point,
Oh,
but
no,
it's important for us.
Yeah, I
So
would just, sorry, sir, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
so
ahead.
just to determine from a whole series of events, of things done, things not done, and following, and also we had gone through, and which I don't propose to go through again, the responses on the 4th of October from yourself, Ms. Sylvia Lim, where the expectation was to come clean, but yet why the responses were in particular ways, and we've noted that as part of the evidence. So that's really, I think, the context. I wanted to explain that. So
Sure.
in case you feel that, why are we going over the same
I
ground
don't.
again?
I don't. I just wanted to add also the context, which I don't believe you've mentioned, Chair, of my response and attitude to her after she told the lie, which I didn't know was a lie, after the 3rd of August. Just following up with her to make sure that what she said is even true.
Indeed, indeed. Whether it actually happened,
That's
and
right.
this was taking place in the course of the few days after the 3rd, leading
Right.
up to the 7th, when she informed you, when you
Right.
knew, and you got, you
Sure.
put down the phone, and because you wanted to know was that were you able to verify and back up that particular
I think
anecdote that she
the
shared?
point is the state of mind of
Indeed,
me as the party secretary general. The easier approach was just to ignore it.
That's right.
You know,
So
I didn't
that
do
part, I don't think we have much in dispute.
Sure.
I think what is of pertinence to us is that as of 8th, and we've gone through that, whether the directions were given were clear, and I think we have determined that. And then on the 3rd, because this is where we need to determine the level of responsibility.
No, I
As
understand.
I said, there's no question whatsoever she lied, and she lied repeatedly. We need to understand the context.
I understand.
And that's really where it is. No other further questions from members? Then just leaves me to thank you once again for
Yes.
coming forward.
Can I just add a point? So I was given the transcript of the proceedings on after our session, after my session with the committee on Friday. And there's one part in the transcript where I say I received an email with regard to the advice, the legal advice. So the legal advice that was given to Ms. Khan. And I did mention on the record that I have an email of this. So in the course of responding to the committee and providing all the documentation that I have, I realized I don't have that email. And it then occurred to me that I actually did see the advice. It would have happened on the 12th of October or at one of those meetings.
This is with
thereafter.
regards to the police.
That's right, the advice that Ms.
question, yeah.
Khan received. So I actually said on record that I have that email, but I don't have that email. So I just think I ought to communicate this to the committee, and if the committee has any clarifications in that regard for me, please let me know. I will cooperate fully.
We know that. Subsequently, I think the clerks will follow up with you. I think just again, summons on some of the details.
I
Because one of the things we do feel would be relevant for our consideration would be some of the correspondences. I mean, if you don't have, then you can declare it accordingly.
Yes.
That you may have among the party leadership.
Yes.
During the disciplinary panel, the inputs given, because they're responses to members, and that might give us some insight into how the issues are viewed. There's also the organization of the adjustment with CEC, the press conference. That may be also relevant for us to understand the context. So I think we put that forward to you, and I'll leave it to you to decide
Sure.
if you would like to respond to us or not. But
Sure.
I think those are pertinent.
I've given my view at the earlier session on this matter, and that view stands.
Understand. Okay, if not, then a transcript of proceedings will be shared with you for verification. Do go through it. If you have any other minor amendments, do get back to us with changes and send the transcript back to us. The transcripts and any evidence given to the committee are not to be disclosed to anyone or published, and to be kept strictly confidential until the committee has presented its report to Parliament. But you may be free to withdraw now, and should there be a need to call you back, we'll do so. But otherwise, our staff will accompany you to the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sergeant
Obliged,
Lars,
Chairman.
Mr. Company,
Thank you.
Mr. Pritam Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Thank you, Pritam.